A straight line can lead us to the footsteps of those who walked this earth long before us, revealing a path of purpose and sacred alignment. Alfred Watkins. In 1921, Alfred Watkins, a modest businessman, had an extraordinary moment of insight while driving along a quiet country road in Blackwood, England. During a stop at an archaeological site overlooking the countryside, he experienced a sudden revelation that would forever change his perspective on the landscape. In this moment of clarity, Watkins described his vision as though he could see a fairy chain stretching from mountain to mountain, connecting high points across the land. He imagined ancient earthworks, clumps of trees marking elevated ridges, circular ponds in low valleys, and towering standing stones placed as markers along these paths. He envisioned tracks cut into hillsides, forming visible notches on the skyline, and fires lit at key points to illuminate the way. These features, he realized, seemed to align in a straight line across the countryside, connecting significant ancient sites. John Frederick Michel, an English author and esotericist who was a prominent figure in the development of the pseudoscientific Earth Mysteries movement, later described Watkins' experience as a moment where time dissolved, allowing him to see beyond the present landscape into a distant prehistoric age. Watkins perceived a hidden network of lines that linked sacred places and ancient sites, revealing a forgotten connection between humanity, the earth, and the cosmos. This discovery inspired him to explore further, revealing that these alignments of traditional sites were a kind of feng shui of the landscape. According to John, these alignments made up a sort of druid's transport system, which harnessed a mysterious power that whisked large rocks across the countryside. Watkins noticed that many sites along these alignments shared similar names or features, supporting his theory that these straight pathways, which he called ley lines, once served as trade routes in ancient times. A practical man, he proposed that these alignments were simply functional markers for navigation. Together with other enthusiasts, he began mapping these straight lines across Britain, identifying at least 5 sites aligned in succession. These sites included megalithic structures, ancient earthworks, and old churches. Initially, Watkins' theory sparked widespread curiosity, drawing both academics and the public into lively debates. While some dismissed the idea entirely, others speculated wildly about the purpose of these lines, including theories involving mystical energies. Researchers even expanded his work, suggesting that ley lines existed worldwide. Despite the excitement, academic circles largely rejected Watkins' ideas. The notion that prehistoric people could create such precise alignments seemed far-fetched given the technological limitations of the time. Interest in ley lines dwindled until the 1950s, when the rise of UFO research gave the concept new life. During this period, theories emerged linking ley lines to magnetic forces. Some UFO enthusiasts, like Eric von Daniken, claimed in his 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods, that ancient structures were part of an extraterrestrial legacy. He speculated that ley lines could act as runways or navigation markers for alien craft, their straightness and alignment being too precise to be coincidental. He theorized that the ancients were guided by extraterrestrial beings to construct monuments and align them along ley lines, which aliens might have used as markers for mapping Earth. Bruce Cathy, a New Zealand airline pilot and UFO researcher, proposed that UFOs used Earth's magnetic energy grid as a global navigation and power system. In books like Harmonic 33, he argued that ley lines represent surface-level manifestations of this global energy grid. Cathy believed UFOs traveled along these energy grid lines, using them to maintain stability and propulsion, and suggested that ley lines could be nodes of concentrated energy. This idea suggested that ancient civilizations were aware of and utilized these energy pathways, with intersections of ley lines forming powerful hubs or vortices. The 1960s saw a resurgence of interest in ley lines as part of a larger fascination with energy grids and mystical connections. Researchers proposed that many ancient mounds, stone circles, and other landmarks were strategically placed at these intersections, serving as conduits for this mysterious force. Counterculture and the Gaia philosophical movement converged in an era that sought a more holistic understanding of Earth and its interconnected systems. This holistic worldview forms the foundation of our discussion. So, let's embark on this journey. As David Hatcher, an author and ancient astronaut theorist, once said, ley lines might be part of a planetary energy system that could have been used as a wireless power transmission network, enabling extraterrestrial visitors to operate their advanced technology. References to a global network of creative energy are embedded in some of the oldest myths. One tale speaks of Grandmother Spider, a being who spun webs of energy extending to a crystal at the Earth's center. This crystal reflected and radiated energy, sending its vibrations outward to nourish the world. The Aboriginal Dreamtime carries a similar notion, aligning with Alfred Watkins's descriptions of ancient trackways. For the Australian Aboriginals, these paths were mystical in nature. Known as songlines, these routes were created by ancestral beings during their cosmogenic adventures. Each tribe possessed knowledge of specific portions of the songlines, and traveling outside one's territory meant walking these sacred paths. The maps of these trails were embedded in their songs, which guided them both physically and spiritually. These pathways were not just physical routes, but conduits for transferring spiritual power and knowledge, fertilizing the land with their energy. John Michell asserted that the awareness of these energy channels was once widespread among ancient peoples and acknowledged through rituals worldwide. He suggested these pathways were part of a mysterious global initiative involving sacred science for a purpose lost to time. Michell wrote, "A great scientific instrument lies sprawled over the entire surface of the globe. At some period, perhaps over 4,000 years ago, almost every corner of the world was visited by a group of men who came with a specific purpose. They used a remarkable power to cut and raise enormous blocks of stone, creating astronomical instruments, pyramids, underground tunnels, and cyclopean alignments, marked by stones, mounds, and earthworks stretching from horizon to horizon. This vision calls to mind the idea of Atlantis, a civilization that may have dispatched emissaries around the globe in the remote past, spreading their advanced knowledge. The study of ley lines and the geometric precision of ancient sites has unveiled patterns that are unlikely to be mere coincidences. These alignments often incorporate advanced mathematics, such as golden ratios and geodesic dimensions, which mirror the shape and measurements of the planet. Researchers have found that some ley lines span vast distances, suggesting a level of planning and intention that defies conventional explanations. Take the St. Michael's Line in the UK, for example, one of the longest and most famous ley lines in Europe. This alignment runs across southern England and connects several significant ancient and medieval sites, including Glastonbury Tor, Avebury, and St. Michael's Mount. It is said to extend beyond England into Europe, linking other sites dedicated to St. Michael, such as Mont Saint-Michel in France and Sacra de San Michele in Italy. This ley line, associated with both natural and spiritual significance, align with the setting sun on the spring and autumn equinoxes. Even more remarkable are the great circles proposed by researchers, lines spanning the entire surface of the Earth. These massive alignments reinforce the notion of a deliberate network that connects sacred sites and enhances the Earth's telluric energies. John Michel, in his book A View Over Atlantis, poetically described the spiritual function of these ley lines. He envisioned them not just as physical paths, but as mystical conduits for internal transformation. Walking these pathways was likened to a sacred pilgrimage, a journey that paralleled the soul's own spiritual evolution. Michel wrote, "The lines which crossed plains and valleys between the hilltops often appeared as leafy tunnels on the ground. They ran through parklands, down avenues of trees, and through forest paths leading to central clearings. To travel along these lines was to pass secretly through the country, moving in a dreamlike state within the soft, flickering light." This spiritual tranquility was recreated by the architects of Gothic churches and cathedrals, where stained glass windows diffused the light in a way reminiscent of forest lanes. This vision illustrates how ancient architects sought to replicate the experience of walking sacred paths in their structures, blending natural and spiritual elements to invoke awe and reverence. Sacred pathways have long been associated with ancient rulers and their civilizations. Welsh historian Geoffrey of Monmouth, in his History of the Kings of Britain, described legendary King Belenus summoning his people to build great highways. These sacred roads crisscrossed the island, offering travelers protection from arrest or attack. Similarly, in Wales, pathways were presided over by Elen, the goddess of dawn and dusk. These sacred paths symbolize the connection between humanity and the divine, linking realms both seen and unseen. Even pseudo-historical accounts like those of King Arthur's quest to re-establish the Lost Kingdom evoke echoes of these ancient traditions. Sacred pathways were more than practical. They were imbued with spiritual significance, uniting the physical landscape with a cosmic order. The metaphysical and practical purposes of ley lines leave us with questions that linger today. Were these pathways designed solely for navigation, or did they also channel energies that enriched the earth and connected humanity to the divine? Modern researchers have identified magnetic anomalies and energetic effects along ley lines, suggesting that these alignments may influence agriculture, health, and even human consciousness. Perhaps most importantly, these sacred pathways remind us of an ancient worldview in which science, spirituality, and the earth were inextricably linked. By walking these paths, whether physically or metaphorically, we reconnect with a way of life that sought balance and harmony with the natural world. Travelers along ancient and mystical pathways often found themselves encountering stories steeped in folklore, tales of roads not merely for humans, but for spirits of the departed. These paths, frequently invisible to the naked eye, were believed to serve as conduits for supernatural energy. In certain traditions, they were known as corpse roads or ghost ways, believed to guide the souls of the dead on their final journey. Some of these spectral paths overlap with physical roads, while others exist purely in the ethereal plane, forming a fascinating history of myth and belief. In Japan, tales are told of yurei, restless spirits, drifting silently along forgotten forest trails that connect one sacred shrine to another, as though journeying to commune with kindred spirits of the afterlife. These spectral paths, known as Onryo no Michi, were often described as quiet, ethereal routes, shrouded in mist and bordered by ancient trees, passing by, sometimes in groups. By doing so, they claimed to glimpse which individuals in the community were fated to die within the coming year. These apparitions, known as doubles, were said to be etheric projections of the living, foreshadowing their eventual death. Whether this was a glimpse into the future or some subconscious enactment of destiny, it remains one of the most haunting elements of Corpse Road lore. In the spring of 1347, a rice farmer and his wife in a remote village of feudal Japan experienced one of these eerie phenomena firsthand. It was a serene evening, with the soft glow of the waxing crescent moon illuminating the rice paddies. As they worked, the couple heard the faint murmur of chanting, like the distant voices of monks reciting a sutra. Curious and uneasy, they turned to the forest path leading toward their field. Emerging from the shadows, a procession of spectral figures glided silently toward them. Men and women dressed in flowing funeral robes of another era seemed to float rather than walk, their faces obscured by the flickering light of phantom lanterns. At the center of this ghostly gathering, a palanquin swayed, carried by 4 ethereal bearers. Through its gauzy shroud, the couple glimpsed the unmistakable shape of a coffin. The wife clutched her husband's arm, whispering prayers to Jizo, the guardian of travelers and the dead, as the procession passed by in an eerie silence. The figures dissolved into the night mist as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving the couple trembling in awe and dread, forever marked by their brush with the supernatural. A few days later, news swept through the village that the elderly headman had passed away in his sleep. The funeral procession, led by monks, took the exact route as the Phantom Parade, following the same narrow path to the shrine. Every detail matched the couple's vision. The rhythm of the monks' chants, the glowing lanterns, and the somber bearing of the pallbearers. In Persian folklore, tales of the Peris, ethereal, mischievous spirits, often described their hidden paths intersecting with human trails, creating moments of mystery and wonder. One such tale recounts the story of a man named Rashid Farzaneh, who was returning to his village from the bazaars of Isfahan in 1953. While crossing the moonlit desert, he heard soft, melodic whispers, as if a group was conspiring in secret. As he drew nearer, he noticed a shimmering silvery glow ahead, pooling on the sands like a delicate carpet woven from starlight. Stepping closer, he realized the light was alive, dancing with Paris, radiant beings with translucent wings and flowing garments that sparkled like gems. They seemed engrossed in their games, playful yet purposeful, as though guarding a secret passage that no mortal was meant to disturb. The Paris began to surround him, their taller, elegant forms staying near, while the smaller, childlike ones darted and swirled in the air. Their movements were hypnotic, and Rashid realized they were trying to lure him off his usual route, toward an ancient, crumbling archway that stood at the edge of the desert. The archway shimmered faintly under the moonlight, as though it were a portal to another realm. Sensing their intent, he hesitated. He muttered a protective dua prayer under his breath, invoking the divine for strength. With a deep breath, he turned back to his original path. As he hurried toward the safety of a stone bridge spanning a dry riverbed, the Paris's laughter became louder, a mix of delight and frustration. Then, as he stepped onto the bridge, they vanished entirely, leaving only the desert wind and the faint scent of wildflowers behind. He later recounted the experience as both wondrous and unsettling, a vivid reminder of the ancient unseen forces believed to roam the deserts. To this day, he swore that the archway, which he never approached again, was not of this world, a threshold between the mortal and the ethereal. Across the world, sacred straight paths were often deliberately created for funerary purposes. These corpse roads, or burial paths, were seen as essential for guiding the spirits of the dead. In the Netherlands, these roads were rigorously maintained, always kept straight and unobstructed by law. They believed that spirits could only travel in straight lines, and any deviation or barrier could cause confusion or unrest. In Egypt, one of the most famous of these is the Avenue of Sphinxes in Luxor, which connects the Karnak Temple to the Luxor Temple. This sacred path, roughly 2.5 kilometers long, was lined with Sphinx statues, guiding priests and mourners during important festivals and funerals. It was designed to align with the gods' paths, allowing the spirit of the deceased to move smoothly from the temple at Karnak, where it received offerings, to the Luxor Temple, where it would be received by the divine. The straightness of the road symbolized the smooth journey to the afterlife, free from obstacles or distractions, and ensured that the soul's passage to the realm of the gods was unhindered. The ancient Mesoamerican city of Teotihuacan in Mexico is known for its iconic straight pathways, particularly the Avenue of the Dead. This grand avenue runs through the heart of the city and connects the Pyramid of the Moon at one end to the Pyramid of the Sun at the other, with other important structures along its route. While the path was used for various ceremonial purposes, it was also a vital part of funerary practices. The avenue's straight line and alignment with celestial bodies were symbolic of the journey of the soul in the afterlife. Archaeological evidence suggests that the avenue was used for processions and funerary rites, guiding the dead toward the afterlife through a path of cosmic significance. The sacredness of this straight path was tied to the belief that the deceased's spirit would travel along it to reach the sacred mountain, the Pyramid of the Sun, where it would be reborn and united with the gods. Stonehenge, one of the most iconic prehistoric sites in Europe, is located on Salisbury Plain in England. In ancient times, the site was used for religious and funerary purposes, and the avenue leading up to Stonehenge is a straight path that aligned with the sunrise during the summer solstice. This ceremonial route stretches over a mile long, and it was used to bring the dead from nearby settlements to the stone circle, or ritual burial. The alignment of the path with celestial events suggests that the journey along the avenue was to guide the souls of the dead to the sacred circle, where they would be united with the heavens. The Via Appia, or the Appian Way, was one of the most important roads in ancient Rome, connecting the city of Rome to the southern parts of Italy. This ancient road, which was used for various purposes, also served as a major route for funerary processions. Roman citizens would often be buried along the road, in tombs and monuments visible to those traveling along the Via Appia. The straight path of the Via Appia symbolized the journey of the soul from life to the afterlife. The tombs, mausoleums, and memorials along the route were designed not only as markers of the dead's physical presence, but also to guide their souls on their final journey to the afterlife. As with other straight paths used in funerary rituals, the road ensured a direct passage from the mortal world to the divine. In the heart of the Inca Empire, the Inca people constructed a vast network of roads, many of which had funerary significance. The Capac Ñan, or the Inca Trail, was a network of roads that ran through the Andes, connecting major cities and ceremonial centers. Some of these roads were specifically designed for funerary purposes. The Inca believed in a spiritual journey that the deceased would undertake to the afterlife. Certain roads, like the path leading to the sacred Machu Picchu, were used during funeral processions, guiding the deceased's soul toward the sacred sites where they could be honored by the gods. The roads were often straight, symbolizing the direct path of the soul's ascent to the divine realm. Along these roads, tombs and ritual sites were placed strategically to mark the journey of the soul and provide a place for offerings and worship. In contrast, some cultures constructed winding burial paths to prevent restless spirits from returning to the living. This belief influenced funerary rites in medieval Europe, where bends and curves in burial routes were thought to trap or confuse spirits. Even fishermen in the Baltic region would run in circles upon returning to shore, hoping to shake off malevolent entities that might have followed them from the sea. Crossroads have long been considered points of spiritual convergence, where energy lines intersect and the veil between worlds thins. In Celtic traditions, offerings were left at crossroads for guardian spirits. In Roman rituals, these junctions were places of reverence, where travelers left gifts for the Lares, protective spirits of the land. But crossroads were also seen as dangerous, frequented by malevolent entities and used for summoning spirits in magical practices. One peculiar belief held that suicides were buried at crossroads to prevent their restless spirits from wandering. The disruption of the straight path by intersecting roads was thought to create a metaphysical barrier, confining the spirit to the crossroads and preventing it from returning to haunt the living. The significance of straight paths extends far beyond the few named above. In Chaco Canyon, ancient Puebloans constructed intricate networks of roads linking ceremonial sites, believed to channel spiritual energy through the desert landscape. In Avebury, England, the Neolithic Kennet Avenue, flanked by standing stones, connected two henge monuments, creating a sacred pathway for rituals and processions. Even today, the idea of sacred straight paths resonates in modern paranormal studies. Researchers have mapped ley lines where sightings of UFOs, spectral black dogs, and other unexplained phenomena cluster, suggesting that these ancient beliefs still hold relevance. From phantom funeral processions to mischievous fairies, from geomantic dragon veins to ley lines connecting ancient sites, these pathways reflect a universal human fascination with the intersection of the earthly and the otherworldly. Ancient wisdom often uncovers profound truths that transcend the physical world, tapping into the spiritual and energetic dimensions. One particularly insightful perspective comes from renowned philosopher and mystic Manly P. Hall, who said, "The ancient symbols are keys to the mysteries of life, unlocking the secrets of nature and the universe that lie beyond our limited perception." This profound statement resonates deeply with the geomantic practices of ancient cultures, particularly the Chinese tradition of feng shui, which emphasizes the harmonious flow of qi or energy through landscapes and structures. The concept of riding the dragon is rooted in ancient traditions that understand the flow of natural energy and its potential to create harmony, abundance, and well-being. As explained by energy researcher John Michel, this philosophy is aligned with the principles of feng shui, which teaches that natural forces can be directed to enhance the flow of qi, life force energy. In traditional Chinese architecture, curved or winding lines are seen as beneficial because they slow the flow of qi, allowing it to gather and accumulate, thus creating harmony. On the other hand, straight lines are less desirable as they cause qi to move too rapidly, dispersing its power and potentially creating negative energy known as sha qi. This principle is particularly evident in the concept of dragon's lairs, which are sacred spots where qi converges and accumulates, acting as energetic reservoirs. However, when a straight line cuts through these layers, It disrupts the energy flow and is thought to release harmful, secret arrows, metaphorically wounding the dragon's body. The Western concept of ley lines, often associated with straight lines, brings an intriguing question about how these energy pathways interact with the Earth's natural energy grid. It prompts us to consider whether ancient builders from different regions were engaging with the same universal energy, but through different methods. Throughout history, cultures worldwide have reflected an understanding of energy pathways, not just as physical routes, but as spiritual and mystical connectors. In Celtic traditions, for example, fairy paths were considered invisible routes that supernatural beings used, and disturbing these paths was believed to bring misfortune. Similarly, in Britain, corpse roads were created to guide spirits to their resting places, ensuring a smooth transition between the physical world and the afterlife. These stories highlight how pathways were seen as more than mere travel routes. They were believed to be spiritual connectors between realms. This concept also echoes in Chinese geomancy, where dragon veins are thought to represent the flow of qi through mountains and valleys. Similar ideas can be found in Native American songlines, Greek sacred pathways, and even Aboriginal Dreamtime stories, all of which emphasize the interconnection between spiritual energy and the natural world. In ancient Britain, sacred pathways often followed winding routes, such as Kennet Avenue, which archaeologists believe was designed to preserve and guide the flow of energy. This serpentine alignment reflects a deep understanding of how energy moves through the land. On the other hand, Western interpretations of ley lines, which often emphasize straightness, can seem at odds with these more flowing designs. However, this discrepancy simply points to different approaches to similar spiritual truths, each culture interpreting energy flow in ways that were suited to their environment and cosmology. Some energy researchers have suggested that many ancient roads around the world, particularly in Britain, were built along pre-existing geomagnetic currents. This aligns with the idea that humans, animals, and even plants are intuitively connected to the Earth's magnetic field. Just as the winding paths were designed to guide and preserve the flow of energy, straight paths have been intended to connect sacred sites, aligning with the Earth's natural energy lines for spiritual and ceremonial purposes. This diverse yet interconnected understanding of energy flow reveals how ancient cultures across the globe use their environment and cosmologies to shape sacred spaces and pathways that not only served practical purposes, but were also seen as metaphysical conduits, guiding both the living and the deceased on their journeys. Modern studies reveal that geomagnetic energy influences behaviors like migration and navigation, and it's likely that ancient humans living closer to nature possessed an innate sensitivity to these forces. Anthropologist Charles Mountford documented similar practices among Aboriginal Australians. Communities followed songlines, spiritual pathways marked by sacred sites, performing rituals that connected them to the land's energy. Mountford observed that these rituals had tangible effects, such as stimulating plant and animal growth, highlighting the profound connection between spiritual practices and environmental harmony. The role of ancient sites in harnessing energy. Megalithic structures like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids are often situated along ley lines, suggesting an intentional alignment with Earth's natural energies. In his research, John Michel also observed that grazing animals, like sheep, naturally follow magnetic pathways, a behavior that parallels the intuitive practices of early humans. Similarly, dowsers, individuals who use divining rods to locate water and energy lines, have discovered numerous paths that align with ley lines and geomagnetic anomalies. Sacred pathways symbolize more than physical or energetic alignments. They reflect humanity's search for meaning and connection. In many traditions, walking a sacred path is both a physical act and a spiritual journey, representing the process of self-discovery and transformation. Author David Spangler eloquently expresses a similar sentiment, stating, "Sacredness lies not only in transcendence, but also in the connection between the spiritual and the earthly." Sacredness makes every step of the journey meaningful. This perspective reminds us that the journey itself is a sacred act, connecting us to the land, the cosmos, and our inner selves. As we reflect on these ancient practices, one thing becomes clear. Humanity has always sought to harmonize with the unseen forces that shape our world. Whether through the careful design of feng shui, the mystical pathways of ley lines, or the intuitive navigation of geomagnetic currents, these traditions offer valuable lessons for modern life. They remind us to move with intention, to honor the land, and to trust the journey, even when the destination is unclear. The question remains, can we, in our modern world, reconnect with these ancient truths to create harmony in our lives? In rediscovering these ancient practices, we may find that the path to harmony is not about achieving perfection, but about embracing the journey itself. Just as the great masters of feng shui did not demand flawless symmetry but sought to guide the flow of energy, and as the builders of sacred sites did not impose their will on the land but worked in harmony with it, so too must we approach our lives. Harmony is not a destination. It is a way of being. Perhaps the most profound lesson these traditions offer is the reminder that the sacred is not somewhere far away or inaccessible. It is here in the soil beneath our feet, in the air we breathe, in the relationships we nurture, and in the choices we make each day. The path we seek has always been with us, waiting for us to recognize its presence. It is not hidden, it is simply overlooked in the rush and distractions of modern life. To walk this path requires courage, humility, and a willingness to look inward. It demands that we confront our disconnection from the natural world and from ourselves. It asks us to reimagine success, not as a race to accumulate more, but as a journey toward balance, fulfillment, and meaning. It invites us to cultivate gratitude for the earth's gifts and to act as stewards of its well-being. As we step onto this path, we may find that its lessons ripple outward, transforming not only our personal lives, but also the broader world. When we honor the land, we protect it for future generations. When we move with intention, we inspire others to do the same. When we trust the journey, we create space for miracles and synchronicities to unfold. In the end, the wisdom of these ancient practices is not about following a set of rigid rules or formulas. It is about living with awareness and purpose, recognizing that every step we take is part of a larger journey. The destination may remain unclear, but the beauty lies in the journey itself, in the act of walking, of learning, of growing, and of becoming. So, let us take this wisdom to heart. Let us move forward with open eyes, open hearts, and open minds. Let us honor the land, trust the unseen forces that guide us, and embrace the journey with all its twists and turns. The path is already beneath our feet. All we need to do is walk it, with intention, with gratitude, and with a deep sense of connection to the sacred. In this way, we may find that harmony is not a distant goal, but a present reality, waiting for us to claim it. The path is ours to walk. Let us walk it well. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient wisdom and its relevance to our modern lives, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating insights like this. Your support means the world, so please like this video if you found it inspiring and share it with your friends and family to spread the knowledge and positivity. Together, we can explore and celebrate timeless connections that unite us all. Thank you for being part of this amazing community.